Well, the Pittsburgh Penguins are in some deep trouble. Can they get back out of this and somehow find a way to win? Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys? Jay Hoyt back with you. Today, welcome back to NHL 25. We're back on Online Versus, playing as the Pittsburgh Penguins, which is not something I really do very often, but in this case, we need to talk about them. So, as of right now, the Pittsburgh Penguins sit where? They are far down there. So they sit as what would be the third worst team in the Eastern Conference, and they'd be sitting, I don't even know, like bottom 10 in the league, I think, without having to actually scroll down. I actually can look. So they'd be sitting at, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So ninth worst in the NHL right now, and they are struggling, right? So they sit right now with a record of 46 games played, 18, 20, and 8 for 44 points. Their home record slightly in the positive of 12, 10, and 3. Their away record 6, 10, and 5. Goals for 137. Goals against 173 for a negative goal differential of 36. And they're 2, 5, and 3 on a 3 losing streak in the last 10 games. So obviously they're not doing well. Now, little bit of positive note though, they still have a chance for playoffs, right? So right now in the Eastern Conference, the wild card number is 49. So they're only 5 points off from that number. The problem with that though is between, even if you say the 50-point mark, right? That's the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Boston Bruins with 50 and 49 points. So let's just say they're 6 points off from the first wild card spot. 5 points off from the second wild card spot. Problem though is they have the New York Rangers, the Philadelphia Flyers, the Detroit Red Wings, the Montreal Canadiens, the Ottawa Senators, and of course Boston and Columbus. All teams between the 50-point mark and Pittsburgh being the 44-point mark, which right behind Pittsburgh is the New York Islanders and the Buffalo Sabres, just a few points apart with 41 points and 39. So they still have a chance. The problem is, though, they have a ton of competition, and of course, not playing great in the last little bit obviously means they're in some rough trouble. Now, taking a look at the roster kind of tells a pretty good story. So let's take a look at their roster, and fortunately for us, we have last game's roster, right? Their lines and everything. So we see it here: Raquel, Crosby, Rust, Bunting, Malkin, and Glass, O'Connor, Hayes, Tomasino, and Belvillier, Lazat, and Akari. On defense, we have Pedersen, Letang, Grzelcyk and Carlson, Pickering, and Joseph. So I see, obviously, with this roster, I forgot to say, Jari and Nedeljkovic in net. But let's start with this. So Tristan Jari, their starting goaltender that they signed to a 5-year contract, $5 million, so what was it, last year before, got sent down and placed on waivers. So he is now in Wilkes-Barre of the AHL. So now they just have Nedeljkovic, and they called up Joel something or other from the AHL squad. So he is now back up, Jari down there, hoping to find some form, hoping to find, whatever he needs to be successful. But then on the other hand, the Penguins, right? So I was looking for them. I think we made a video this last offseason when Washington was making a ton of moves to be competitive. And when I say they made some moves to be competitive, we take a look at the standings. They're the top team in the Eastern Conference. Right, they have 65 points, top of the Metro, 30, 10, and 5 is their record. They're doing absolutely incredible. So they made a ton of moves to try to win, right? Make the most out of the rest of Ovechkin's career in the last few years or whatever it may be for him to, one, be a record breaker and, be the all-time goal scorer for the NHL, and also to make themselves a competitive team for years to come. Now, not that I was hoping for it, but in the eyes of an unbiased hockey fan, and seeing that Crosby, Malkin, and Letang aren't going to be around forever and they only have a few years left themselves, you want to see the Pittsburgh Penguins do a similar thing where they would get players to, let's just say a 5-year plan. I think is what the video I made said was, however long Crosby, Letang, and Malkin are going to play, let's just say it's 5 years, have a 5-year plan to go all in winning, and then after those guys retire, or at least 2 of them retire, or if they all 3 go at the same time, then you probably have to go into a rebuild and actually get some young players in and go through a full rebuild. But until then, I would be trying to win now. Like, you don't get players like Crosby, Malkin, and Letang every day, or every year, or every 5 years, every 10 years. Like, those are generational players. I mean, Letang maybe not so much, but definitely Crosby and Malkin definitely would be up in that conversation as well. But when I take a look at this roster, obviously you have Crosby, you have Malkin, you have Raquel, you have Rust, and then you have a lot of random nobodies. And I don't want to say random nobodies, but taking a look at their stats, right? You have Crosby number 1 as your team leader in points, Raquel, Rust, Malkin, then you have Carlson and Letang. I missed a few games there, or else he'd probably be up in there as well. But your first player that is not kind of your core 6 or 5 or 6 players has 25 points, and that's Michael Bunting with 25 points, 13 goals, 44 games played. Right? Then you have, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 of your defensemen are in the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 4 of your defensemen are in your top 10 in scoring right now. Like, that's great for your defense and for those players, but at the same time, if you're trying to win games, you need more out of wingers. Plain and simple, right? With the exception of, like I said, the 4 forwards being Crosby, Raquel, Rust, and Malkin, you got nobody. Like Drew O'Connor, 16 points in 46 games. Not great at all. Beauvillier played on your 4th line last game, 12 points. Lazat on your 4th line, 12 points. Kevin Hayes, your, 3rd line center? Doing nothing. 10 points. I didn't even mention minus 17, minus 18, minus 20s, minus 13. Jesse Puljujarvi, I think, got sent down to the AHL. Cody Glass not doing too much for them. Noel Acciari not doing too much for them. Tomasino not doing too much for them. Lars Eller got traded. Who else am I missing here? Bunting. Yeah, I mean, they're forwards. They got nobody. They got no help on their wings other than Raquel and Rust. Like, plain and simple, they need help. Because I'm looking down here, another player. Who is this? That's a defenseman, Jack St. Ivany. 19 games played, 1 point, minus 3. You look at another player, P.A. Joseph. I think he got traded, but 12 points, 12 games played, 0 points. Ryan Graves, 31 games played, 0 points, minus 8. So overall, you're just not doing well, and you have a lot of players that are, 1, not contributing, and 2, not contributing enough to make it worth, even trying this year, because you need help desperately. So then that brings the question of, okay, what could the Penguins do to help out their team? So you take a look at their salary, right? Their cap, their everything, right? So you have you got Crosby, Malkin, Rust, Raquel, all signed. Great. So you take a look at their first forward that isn't those top 4. You have Michael Bunting, who has, 25 points, I think I said, making $4.5 million. Definitely not worth that contract, but has 1 more year left under that deal. Then you have Kevin Hayes as your 3rd line center. Realistically, $3.5 million. Not a terrible deal for a 3rd line center, but at the same time, he's not earning that money. Then you have Cody Glass, 1 more year, or actually, he's an RFA this offseason, but again, $2.5 million. He's not earning that deal. Noel Acciari, making $2 million as your 4th line right wing. Not worth that contract. Blake Lazat, $1.8 million for another year. Fourth line center. I mean, whatever. Then you have Anthony Beauvillier, 1 year, $1.25 million. Not a terrible deal, but again, you need more help in your top 6, top 9. So obviously not a lot of money tied up there, but still. Drew O'Connor, make him $925,000, but not really doing too much of anything. Matt Nieto, I don't even think he was in the lineup that I saw. So, I mean, again, he's not really doing too much of anything. Philip Tomasino, young player that needs to find his way. So he's an RFA this year, 23 years old. So hopefully he figures it out and they figure out how to play him. But they need help. They need wingers. They need help on the wing, plain and simple there. Also, if they would stop giving no trades to legitimately every single player on the roster, because you look, Malkin's got one, Crosby's got one, Russ has got one, Raquel's got one, Michael Bunting has one, Kevin Hayes has one, Noel Acciari has one, Erik Karlsson has one, Chris Letang has one, Ryan Graves has one, Marcus Pettersson has one. Like, oh my goodness. Stop giving out no trades. That would help your situation so much better. But then we take a look at your defense, right? So you acquired Erik Karlsson, a couple seasons ago now? I don't even know when that trade was. But $10 million for 2 more years. Where was he on the points? Erik Karlsson, where are you at? 32 points, 46 games. That's solid. But $10 million, though, I know they acquired him with that deal, but still. Then you have Chris Letang signed for 3 more years at $6.1 million. That's a tough deal, especially how late in his career he is. To have that much money tied up into an aging player like that. Very questionable. Ryan Graves, I think he just signed somewhat of a newer deal. $4.5 million, 5 more years left under that deal. So that's an insane contract for a player that has literally not put up a single point the entire year. As well as not played good defense either, because he's all the way at the bottom here, -8, 31 games played. Just overall not really doing too much of anything. Then you have Marcus Pettersson. He's a pending UFA this year, but $4 million for him. Again, not really doing too much. You have Matt Grzelcyk, who, where was he? Grzelcyk, 22 points. Still not great. I mean, Pettersson not doing awful, right? 40 games played, 16 points, -1, but playing the top pair as a stay-at-home defensive defenseman. Can't really expect a ton from him, but still, just need him to play really good defense. Matt Grzelcyk, I mean, $2.75 million, not terrible, but still, they still need help at forward. Then you have a couple of younger players here in Pierre-Olivier Joseph, who I thought he was traded, or did he come back to Pittsburgh? I don't even know. As well as Owen Pickering, who is a rookie this year, who is still figuring it out. As well as some depth pieces. On top of all that, right? On top of needing wingers in the NHL, they need a goalie that can stop the puck, because right now their goalies are not doing it. So taking a look at their records, I mean, they're not awful by any means, but at the same time, Tristan Jarry, who is your starting goaltender, 22 games played, 8-8-4. with a 3.31 goals against. Save percentage is a .886. Not good at all. I think they have the worst. I think is the worst save percentage in the league. I don't remember. But then you look to your backup, right? Alex Nedeljkovic, 7-7-4, 3.4 goals against, with the same save percentage. Not great. Joel Blomqvist, who is the guy they just called up when they sent Jarry down, he's not really showing too much of anything, though. 8 games played, 3-5 for him, 3.6 goals against, save percentage just above the 900 mark. So their goaltender's not doing it too much either. Now, I know sometimes people say, well, why has the coach not been fired? Or why is the coach doing this or that? Well, Mike Sullivan's a good coach, right? And I feel like it's going to be a situation, I don't want to say similar to Vegas, but similar to that type of situation where he's a good coach, he should be an NHL coach, but at the same time, he's been there a while, you're in a tough spot, it might be time for a different voice, some new ideas in the locker room, and to change that up, maybe they get another really good coach in there, or they might be just waiting until the off season where they try to make some, big moves. And, starting with the front office staff, I'm not sure. But overall, goaltending's an issue. Their wingers are an issue. And a lot of players on their squad just not performing as they need to be in order to win. So I'm not sure how they're going to go about it, but that just is my opinion. You need some wingers. You have some players that you can send the other way. And hopefully they figure it out, because I really would hate to waste the last few years of a Crosby, of a Malkin, of a Letang, even an Erik Karlsson type career. That'd be really sad to see those guys go out not really winning too much of anything. But that is going to do it for today's video. If you did enjoy, hit the like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. As always, guys, we'll see you